Hey everyone, I'm Ace, this is Squeak Code, and it's been a while. I just posted a video called Is PTSD a Memory Disorder over on my science channel, Draw Curiosity, and it contains extracts from the following interview with Kati Morton. Now, if you follow this channel, I'm sure you know who Kati Morton is, but in case you don't, she is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she makes videos about mental health here on YouTube. So, in short, she is absolutely fantastic. Now, I had found a paper about 6 months earlier that suggested that PTSD could in fact be a memory disorder, and I was very curious to see what Kati's opinion on this was. Now, disclaimer, neither of us had actually read the paper recently when we recorded this video, which is why I also encourage you to watch the original over on Draw Curiosity. That's one of the things that happens with VidCon Collapse. So first of all, I wanted to know what PTSD is.
So PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. And I have a full video if you want all the diagnostic criteria, but to kind of condense all the information, PTSD really is when we fear for our lives in a situation. It could be something that we see someone else happen. We're like, oh my goodness, something terrible is going to happen to them. They could die. They could be in extreme danger. Or we're in a situation where we feel like we can't escape and we fear for our own life. That's essentially a trauma. And when we have a trauma, the response that our body has after it, because it's too much for our brain to process, we experience PTSD. And it's an anxiety disorder, and it can be something where we have flashbacks of the experience. We may have memory loss around the time. We may have memories that we feel in our body as if we're back in the experience. I find that PTSD can present itself within a year of when the trauma happens. And I know people will have differing opinions, but that's been my experience with my clients, that it can take a while for those symptoms to present themselves.
Now, that was the perfect introduction to the basics of PTSD and its symptoms, and next up I was interested in hearing how PTSD affects our declarative memory.
So the best way to describe it, and I actually had a video where I had another guest on talking about trauma, because she's a trauma specialist, and the best way I find to describe traumatic memories are comparing them to happy, normal memories. So let's say Anais and I go on a vacation and we go skydiving and we eat wonderful food and we go on bike rides, just have the time of our lives, and we come back. My brain, as I'm doing this, is like writing pretty stories and putting all these files in files and putting them in the filing cabinet and shutting the drawer. It all makes sense. It's filed away nicely, beginning, middle, end. Clear. Wonderful. When we have a trauma, this is why I love Inside Out. Have you guys seen the movie Inside Out? If you haven't, I highly recommend it. Because then I picture those little nice memories as those marbles in Inside Out. And so we filed them away, right? And we're rolling them into our long-term memory. When we have a trauma, it's like somebody has thrown the marble and it's splintered and it shoots into all those other memories, all those other file folders. It's like chaos. It's like the papers have just gone everywhere. And we have to slowly put them back together in a cohesive story, beginning, middle, end. I wouldn't agree that PTSD is a memory disorder because it's not actually our memory that's the issue. It's just the way that our brain is trying to process the information causes it to splinter it. So all the information's still there. We don't actually forget anything. Our brain is just hiding it because it doesn't know where to put it. It doesn't know how to process it. It can't make it into a cohesive story, so it can't file it away. But the thing about therapy, and the thing about trauma therapy in particular, is that we utilize all of our senses to pull all that information out. So we're picking up all the splinters. That's kind of why I like the marble analogy, like it's thrown, it's like, pow! And so you may smell something that reminds you of that trauma. Let's say it was a car crash and we smell gasoline, and we automatically think, oh my goodness, that was that time, and our brain will go back to it. Boom. It runs back to that time. So we've picked up that portion of the story and we've put it down. And so working with trauma as a clinician, as a mental health professional, one of the first things we try is having the client talk through the traumatic experience in detail. As much detail as you can handle and as fast as you can go. Know that if they're moving too fast and you're starting to dissociate, meaning like pull out of your body, feel like you're kind of watching yourself, you're not able to stay present, tell them to slow down. That's very normal, but we have to at our own pace walk through it, and we're slowly like rewriting that story, picking up all the splinters and putting back together the marble of the memory. Does that make sense?
It certainly did make sense. From the video on memory I made, I remembered that memories are like Chinese whispers, in that each time they're relived, they rewrite themselves. So I wanted to check that the goal of PTSD therapy was to rewrite the memory as one single cohesive file.
Yeah, that it's not scattered. because that's where we get flashbacks. That's why we dissociate. That's what makes all of the symptoms of PTSD happen, is because it's scattered. And it's almost like it's scattered across the ground and we don't know when we're going to step on them. And then we can have a response and we can struggle because we've come across this memory, this experience. And if we've already talked it through, we've started like picking those up and like sorting, like cleaning house. That's kind of the file cabinet analogy, like helps, because like these papers are everywhere. And as we come across them on purpose, we pick them up, we put them in order, and we can file it together. Because otherwise we're essentially walking around a minefield of memories that could be traumatic, right? That's the whole point, is these memories aren't happy memories. These are things that were hard and were painful. And otherwise, if we don't put them back together, we can be forced to relive them as we stumble across a smell, a sound, a place, a time, any of those things.
I was curious to know whether that was the only way PTSD was treated, as I had heard also of the term EMDR for PTSD therapy.
So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So EMDR, obviously it's a lot of words and it doesn't really make any sense, but the truth about it is that when we sleep at night, when we have REM sleep, if any of you've noticed or seen in the movies or heard about it, your eyes, it's rapid eye movement. That's what REM stands for. And we all need that as part of our brain's way of processing through the day. And so our eyes are going like this, like at a really crazy, incredible rate. And that helps our brain process through all the things we've experienced. Traumatic memories, PTSD, doesn't allow for that. Our brain can't process it in a night. It doesn't have the ability, it doesn't have the capability. It's overwhelmed. It doesn't know where to file what happened. It has no reference point. It's confused. It's splintered, right? So once we've kind of gone through that experience, we've had that trauma, EMDR starts up that REM. It almost like initiates a REM-like experience. And so we call it bilateral stimulation. So if I was doing it on an ACE, I would tap on, you'd have to put your legs out. I'd have to tap left, right, left, right, left, right. I could have her follow my finger back and forth. You can do sound in the ears where it goes bzz, bzz, bzz. You hold buzzers, anything bilateral, because what it's causing our brain to do is to process through that. It's like forcing the processing, because we can't do therapy when we're asleep. So it kind of causes REM when we're awake. And so the therapist will talk you through in the same way that I would in detail while having you reprocess. Now, I don't do EMDR therapy, but the most important thing about it is to find someone who has done it for a long time, understands it, and helps you build what we call the resiliency zone, meaning I'm not in fight or flight, I'm not having a flashback, I'm not frozen, I don't feel immobile, I'm not dissociating, I'm able to stay present, I'm able to talk about it, even if it's super, super slow. Because when we're talking about it is when the reprocessing actually happens. It's actually pretty quick. Everybody's different, but the average treatment can be anywhere from like 6 sessions to like 12 sessions.
That's actually really, really quick compared to other treatments such as cognitive behavioural therapy. Now, returning to the topic of memory, I was also very curious to find out what predisposes someone to PTSD, as after all, multiple people may have the same traumatic experience, but not all of them will develop PTSD. Could there be some inherent differences in the way memories are encoded that make PTSD more likely to happen in some people and not in others?
That's an interesting, I'd love to read the paper more to know more about it, but in my experience, the reason that some people they will experience PTSD and other people won't, like Anais and I can be in a car accident, I get PTSD, she doesn't, has a lot to do with your resiliency. And that's not something, unfortunately, that we have full control over. It's something we can build, we can get stronger. It's like a muscle, but resiliency can start from childhood, having healthy attachment, having communicative parents, a lot of things that we really don't have control over. And also having self-confidence. There's a lot of different components that they kind of add up to say that's what resiliency is. And so that would be that's what I think it is. I don't think it has anything to do with the way that our brain processes it so I think some people will get PTSD and others won't, more because of how resilient they are. And resiliency has a lot to do, like I said, with all of the things that happened when we were younger and then how resourceful we are. I don't actually think it's our brain's ability, but that would be interesting to read about because maybe we are quicker to process. That could be what resiliency is. We just haven't heard much about it, or I haven't read the full paper to understand. However, I do believe that it has more to do with the individual and their ability to be resourceful, their ability to talk it out, because they actually also, a lot of research shows that women are more quick to process and get out of PTSD-like symptoms, or for instance, get over a breakup, get over anything that's disturbing. We end up processing it through more quickly because we tend to talk more, we tend to have more resources, we tend to have support in social situations more. And obviously these are all like generalizations. People are always gonna be different, but there's a lot of, a lot to be said about having resources, having support systems, and reaching out.
The topic of resiliency was also one I'd heard of before, and I was very curious to find out more about it because it sounds like it's something that's quite flexible. What could we do to improve our own resiliency?
Yeah, I think the best thing that you can do to increase your resiliency is to start talking about things. Talk to someone, whether it's a trusted loved one, whether it's a professional. I know not everyone has access to a professional, but wherever you are, at least try to get on a wait list, talk to your doctor, get the referral, start the process, because I find that that is the quickest way to build it. But during that time, while we're waiting to see that doctor or therapist or whomever, I would encourage you to start seeing your friends, talk to someone about it, tell them about it, and, let them seek to understand, let them ask you questions, start to feel more comfortable saying it out loud, because when it comes to mental illness or anything we struggle with, the more we talk about it, the less power it holds over us. I find that things grow like bacteria in the dark. It's like the opposite of how it would grow, but in our brain, it gets more power as we keep it secret. And so the sooner we start talking about it, the better. And there are other things that we can do. Just something that really changes your life is positive self-talk, because the conversation we have with ourselves is the one that we have the most during our day. And so if we're saying nice things, if we're saying things that are uplifting and confidence building, confidence is such a tie-in with resiliency, because we're more apt to speak up, we're more apt to reach out, we're more apt to try things and do things to help us feel better because we believe we're worth it. And I think that those are some of the things you could do today to start, working on your own recovery.
It was interesting to hear about this because not that long ago I had spoken to someone who researched factors that affected resiliency, as well as the development of depression, anxiety, and possibly even PTSD. They looked at the effects of bullying, but also the effect of having a good relationship with their mother. And I wanted to hear Katie's thoughts on that feeding into resiliency.
Yeah, there's a great book called The Emotionally Absent Mother. And if you find yourself struggling with your relationship with your mom, or honestly, if you find yourself connecting to other females in your life and not obsessing over them, but feeling really attached to them. I have clients who had an emotionally absent mother, and they then attach on to teachers, friends' mothers, other people in their life, so that they feel fulfilled, because we essentially have a mom hole that wasn't filled, it's a little hole that was left that she wasn't there. And I do think that not having a mother who comes when we cry, who when we come back from school says, it's okay, you'll get it next time, you did great, you really tried your best, and affirming and building us up. If we don't get that, we are more predisposed for depression. We are more predisposed for borderline personality disorder. Certain things that I believe come out of the fact that we didn't have a good foundation to jump off from. Because the thing about children is, in the first few years of our life, what we really just need is to know that people are there supporting us. Then we feel safe to leave home, try things, and come back knowing that they're there. And if we don't feel like they're there, if we've cried and they didn't come, if they were neglectful in any way, like we got really sick, they never took us to the hospital, things like that can make us feel like we don't have that safe base, we don't have that place to come back to. And so then we can feel lost, we can feel hopeless, we can try to seek it out in other ways and end up in really unhealthy relationships or have traumatic experiences happen. That can lead to a lot of abuse, because we're putting ourselves in vulnerable situations, hoping to have the mom hole that's filled by somebody else, and instead we can, be assaulted or be taken advantage of. It's really interesting, and that book is really great, because there are ways that we can work to remother ourselves, because again, it's something we don't have control over. And I always find that to lead people to feeling more hopeless, but no, there is hope and there are things you can do. It's just better understanding where you come from and why you're doing the things you're doing. I often find my clients get the most validation just having a name for what they're going through. My mom wasn't around, and so now I have depression, or now I have an attachment disorder because I'm trying to find someone else to attach to. Just being able to name it can sometimes be like, okay, so I'm not losing my mind. This is okay. This is my way of dealing with it. And the truth is that it's part of our resiliency that we try to seek out other people, right? We're trying to still fix it and figure it out. And that engaging in that is actually really healthy.
From this, I really wanted to hear what Katie's advice would be for someone who may have an emotionally absent mother.
Talk to somebody sooner rather than later. As a therapist, I'm in my own therapy, and I find if I don't wait until I feel terrible, like at the end of my rope, like total garbage. If I don't wait till then and I go in when I'm like, I'm feeling kind of tearful lately, or that was really hard for me. If I go in then, it's so much easier. I only need because I'd go to see my therapist off and on, like checkups. It's kind of like getting your oil changed in your car. You get things checked up and on. And so I'll go in and I'll talk to her for a couple of sessions and I feel better. So the sooner you talk to someone about it, the sooner you get help, the better. And a way to get some kind of support and to have a place to vent without, if you're waiting on a waiting list to see someone, is journaling and friends. So talking to supportive people and writing about it, because that almost in a way is helping you talk through a situation, a scenario, a way that you felt. If it was traumatic, you're working it through. You're essentially doing your own therapy because you're talking yourself through it by writing it out. And you can journal by making videos too. I always tell people you can vlog, you don't have to upload it, but you can just film yourself if that's easier. So.
And thus, doing full circle to the original topic, would that mean that journaling is a good way of reprocessing memories?
Yeah, I definitely think journaling is a form of reprocessing, and there's so many other ways that you can reprocess that don't have to be, an EMDR or trauma therapy, because the truth about it is that we're just trying to put those memories away. We're trying to clean it up, and there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. You can even do a lot of things on your own. Like a lot of my clients, I'll have them write letters to people that they don't send. I'll have them talk in an empty chair to the person who harmed them, because it gives you a safe space to vent, to get it out, and to express. And often we've come across different little bits of memory that maybe we wouldn't have come across in any other way. And I'll even have them bring their journals in. If journaling isn't your thing, collages can work, writing music. There's a bunch of different ways to express all that may be feeling like it's stuck inside.
And at this point, it was definitely time to wrap up. So where to go from here? First of all, if you've not seen the video over on Katie's channel, then go there. We talk about the differences between OCD and Tourette's as well as their similarities, and go subscribe to her channel because she uploads loads of videos on mental health and they're all excellent. If you've not seen the video over on Your Curiosity, I highly recommend go checking that out. And if this is your first time on this channel, Squeak Code, then hi! Welcome! I admit I don't upload here that frequently because I'm more into creating the science stuff. I really like making science communication videos and it's what I want to do as a career. But I do really care about mental health advocacy, and therefore this is my corner of the internet to do that. So whatever you choose to do, feel free to go check out Your Curiosity or stay on Squeak Code, do whatever you want. And as always, thank you so much for watching me, and I will see you in the next one somewhere on the internet. And as always, thank you so much for watching us, and I'll see you in the next one.
Bye!